Hi, everyone. Okay, before we begin, I want to gently invite you to something really special. If you're feeling run down, disconnected from your body, or craving a reset that actually fits into your real life, then my 7-day Wellness Woven In reset was created just for you. It's now a self-paced digital experience designed to help you slow down, reconnect, gently reset your nervous system, your habits, and then your energy so that you can start to ramp things up with sustainable consistency. And it's all without pressure or perfection. Through short daily nervous system rituals, simple guidance, targeted movement, and supported nutrition, you'll feel more grounded, nourished, and like yourself again. We start by reorienting, and then we move through reconnection, replenishment, reinvigoration, and more, finishing by celebrating the wins that we have on the board and committing to continuing that momentum. So many of my clients have talked about how this has become the unlock for them in getting them back in touch with their body and back on track with their wellness journey. You can now purchase lifetime access to this digital course for just 59 New Zealand dollars via the link in the show notes or by heading to www.alexballard.com/downloads. Okay, now let's get into this week's episode. Welcome back to the Real World Wellness Podcast. And oh my goodness, we're at season 5, guys. I cannot believe it. And I can at the same time because it does feel like I've been doing this for a little while. Yeah. Anyway, not to this day have I had the pleasure of introducing such an amazing guest. And I'm so excited today to introduce this lady who has been profoundly influential in both my wellness and my business journeys. She's over the last year been like a mentor for me, a guide, and quite simply someone just I'm incredibly grateful to know. So Shelley Gawith is a true pioneer in the functional nutrition space, and she's a leading figure both here in New Zealand and internationally. Her work blends deep clinical experience, evidence-based practices, and an intuitive approach to human health that consistently gets unbelievable results with her clients time and again. Whether that's lifting brain fog, restoring energy, balancing hormones, or transforming someone's whole experience of their health and so their life. Shelley's journey into this space started with her own health crisis, which she overcame through relentless curiosity and commitment to understanding how the body truly works. From there, she went on to become one of New Zealand's most sought-after functional nutrition practitioners, a certified expert with deep training and a respected speaker and educator, working with clients all over the world. Now, there are so many directions that we could take with Shelley because she is just a wealth of wisdom. But in this episode, we're diving deep into all things brain health, why poor brain function has become such an epidemic, what degrades it, lifestyle and nutrition strategies to support it, and perhaps what I'm most excited about, whether the effects of poor brain health can be reversed. Shelley, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for everything you've taught me so far. I've already learned so much from you, and I'm excited to jump in today.
Thank you so much for having me, Alex. And I feel so blessed that we came into each other's worlds. So thank you so much for everything that you've gifted me as well.
So lucky. So cool. Okay, where I want to kick off is quite broad. I feel like brain health is quite a conversation at the moment. It's in a lot of podcast episodes that I see pop up. Friends are talking about it, particularly friends who have elderly parents. It's certainly a topic that's very relevant for my family, with my father-in-law having passed a couple of years ago from dementia. And it does just seem like it's growing. So what I'd love to know from you, Shelley, is do you believe we're facing like a brain health epidemic? Is it that serious? And if so, like why? And if not, then why are we all talking about it?
Well, I do believe yes and no. So I do believe whether we're facing a brain health epidemic or not, what I also, after being in clinical practice for 10 years, you see different trends come and go in the wellness space and the health space and different focuses. And 10 years ago, my training that I got taught was very much brain health is reversible. Dementia and Alzheimer's, a lot of it is diet and lifestyle and environmental toxins. But that definitely was not in the mainstream media or the mainstream blogs, and just it wasn't really being talked about. And so when I would challenge clients in clinic and say those types of things to them, that it's reversible, it's within our control, you can help your aging parents, and what we do now, all of those things, that look at me sideways and feel like they literally were like, you're a little bit woo-woo, and that it's a little bit confronting, and that it's not true at all. So there was very much a like, note, once you're diagnosed with Alzheimer's or dementia, you've got it, it's genetic. If your family members have got it, there's no hope for you. Like, this is the way it is. And we're kind of stuck with it. And basically, most of my clients thought that 95% of them would end up with some brain health symptoms and brain health condition as they aged. And so, and that was kind of just believed. And so I was really battling uphill. I'd have to get on PubMed. I'd really have to put in a lot of effort to find them data, to find them research, to try and change their mindsets and try and help them think differently and actually believe that it wasn't all genetics and it was lifestyle and diet and it was reversible. So that's kind of the history of 10 years ago. Fast forward to really just as I was giving birth to my son, so about 2 years ago, I believe, and Alex, you can tell me if you think differently, it really started showing up with people like Dr. Mark Hyman, like these amazing functional medicine practitioners and medical doctors. So a lot of functional medical practitioners in the States started really talking about and getting medical data to prove that it was actually all, well, no, I shouldn't say all, 98% of it was reversible. And so what we started to see now was on blogs, like if you're in the health world and wellness world and you're looking for information, what I personally found for clients was suddenly it was at their fingertips in terms of they were typing and looking for things. And now these, I don't want to say that Dr. Josh Axe and Mark Hyman and other names like Dr. Will Cole, that they're mainstream. I don't mean it in a discrediting way. I mean it in a beautiful way. But they have very big platforms and they have a lot of education and a lot of researchers working for them and the funds to pay all of this. And so they started really bringing it to the forefront and going, actually, we know, and I knew this from looking at my clients' blood work, but what they started saying and studying and publishing was in your 30s and 40s, they can predict in their world, because they're doctors, but for me, clients, they could predict the patients that were going to end up with dementia and Alzheimer's based on what they were doing in their 30s and 40s and the ones that weren't going to. So they started to see two different types of people. They started to research it, categorize it, get the data, get information, and really started to spread in the best way possible that information, write about it, produce books about it, blogs about it. And so for me, what I found is hope. Like what I would say the biggest thing that's come out of this in the last 10 years is the hope. Like that's what's really changed is now you've got these big medical doctors talking about the hope that actually you're not stuck with this diagnosis. And it's actually not, unless you're the 2% or it's genetics related, the 2% of the world population where it is because of your genes. For 98% of us, we are in control of it and it doesn't just happen to us. We don't just get to 75 or 70 or whatever the magic number is that you think it is, and suddenly you're diagnosed with dementia and Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and all these other brain-related conditions. And it's actually, you could do a lot in your 30s, 40s, like 20, 30 years before the diagnosis to prevent a diagnosis. And then, Alex, to answer the other question, the other flip side of that coin is why are we seeing more of it? Mm-hmm. Well, once again, even from 10 years ago, our brain health is all around toxicity and being able to detoxify and inflammation and stress. Cortisol plays a huge load in this. Now, I'm not saying that we need to live perfect lives because I truly don't believe that. I don't want clients to live in a bubble. Like, it's, I fly, I get exposed to toxins. I'm a new mom. I've got stresses. My cortisol goes through the roof, So I'm not saying that we have to be perfect. But what we are seeing, the flip side of it, is we're just exposed to so much more in our environments, in mold and parasites and toxins and pesticides and plastics, like all of these things that I 100%, like I'm not going back 100 years to like spin my own washing. So I'm all for what we have done in society. But the convenience of it also means that we've gotten more of a toxic load, which I also don't necessarily think, how I say this to clients is when you're aware of it, you can make educated, empowered decisions to take the best of the modern world, because I'm all for having my washing, like I'm not going back to doing, so you can take the best of that, and then through diet and lifestyle decisions, you can mitigate the impact of the car. You can mitigate, like I get on planes, Alex, you know this about me, I get on planes all the time. I know they're toxic, but I love going to my conferences. And I would be so sad to not go. So that would impact my cortisol levels, and that would be detrimental to my mental health. So it's like, okay, if we can actually just have an honest conversation where we're not putting unrealistic expectations on women to do more and to create more stress. And now they've got to be worried about plastics and environmental, like just all of these things. But if we can go, okay, this is the world we live in today. Now, what are some easy everyday things that are going to work? And my easy everyday will be different to your easy everyday, which will be different to somebody else's easy everyday. But Alex, there are actually easy things that we can be doing when we have an honest conversation about this, and we don't just go into overwhelm and go, it's all just too hard. And so I think there's obviously more awareness around it, but just unfortunately, we've just got more of a load on our bodies in today's world.
Yeah.
And so that's why we're seeing more diagnosis of it, but also we're seeing more information as well. But that can also feel very overwhelming when it's just not simple tools and steps to implement daily.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I love about the work that you do, Shelley, and that's what I'm all about too, is that, like, okay, so we have this awareness. That's always the first step, is this is the reality. And then it's about, okay, so based on this, how can we practically and realistically weave things into our life in order to create more of a balance, hey? Because, yeah, otherwise the stress of it all and the overwhelm, it's like, that's probably the worst thing for us.
Then you're just going to give up, myself included.
Yeah,
and Alex, this is why we get along. We both like to keep it simple. I think because we love wellness, obviously that's the world we're in, but we also live real lives in the real world, where if it becomes too hard for us, and like, what I could do as a single person when I had my clinic, when I first started out, is very different to what I could do as a married person to what I could do with one child. You've got 3. And so it's like, but we can actually all have good health no matter what season of life we're in. What I will say on that, though, is once you're in your 60s or 70s and you're being diagnosed with a brain condition, Alzheimer's, dementia, like any of those, you can change the trajectory in terms of how sick or how fast you get the symptoms. But anytime you've got a diagnosis, you've got a condition, so whatever that is, when a client comes to me and they don't have an organ anymore, I'm like, I can't regrow that organ. I can make the best of what's in your body. So for us, as we're aging and looking at our parents aging, what we do today is so beneficial. Even if you're like, already thinking, oh my gosh, I'm already in my 60s and 70s, it's too late. It's never too late until you've been given the clinical diagnosis. So even if you're mid-70s listening to this and you're like, oh my gosh, like I missed this by 3 decades. It's like, no, you didn't. Or for anyone sharing this with your parents, you didn't. But the choices you make today, the older you are almost more urgent so that you don't get diagnosed with it. That would be the only difference, where it's like you would need to prioritize faster these simple habits and commit to them more than somebody in their 30s and 40s that can have a bad day, a bad week, and move on with their lives.
Yeah, love that. And it's so empowering to know as well that it's never too late to make a shift and to choose ourselves and our health. I love that. So speaking to symptoms that may be starting to be experienced in 60s and 70s, are there any key things we can start to look out for even earlier than that, Shelley? Like even if blood tests and we're having all the checks and things, if they're coming back as normal, are there other kind of common little sneaky signs that might suggest that someone's brain health is being either compromised or like slowly starting to degrade?
Well, the slowly degrade one is what makes it kind of tricky, because as a society, we're very good at excusing things. So, for example, I'll just give you an example. So when people do like a 10-day program with me, and I didn't realize this until about 3 years ago when we were really like surveying people at the end and asking them what the biggest surprise was right? Like I wouldn't ever advertise the program in terms of a brain health program. I was actually looking at their adrenal health, and every single one, and there was like 70 people in this one particular intake, and I personally interviewed every single person at the end. And they all said the biggest change they noticed was their brain function, how clearly
Wow.
they thought, how focused they were, how they could remember things, and they didn't get like the brain fog, the forgetful. And I was like, huh. So for me, that was really like, this is why I love like working with people, because you get real life feedback. And that's why I always care and like really want to understand what it was for the person. And so it was really fascinating. Sometimes for a practitioner doing like working with a lot of numbers, like humans, I know we're all humans, but numbers is really helpful because you can start to see trends. And
Uh-huh.
over the years, I've had my one-on-one clients tell me that their brain had improved and their memory had improved and their focus, but it was harder to see it like the same way that 70 people's data and like literally calling each person and listening to it and hearing it and hearing it. And I was like, huh. And so then when I started to ask them, I was like, so you didn't join the program thinking that you had memory problems or focus problems or like that you forgot things. And they were like, no, like I actually thought my brain health, and these were all people kind of in their 30s to 40s. Some of them were like, I just forgot things because I'm a busy mum, and I've had
Uh-huh.
that for 10 years in clinic, people telling me, and I'd always ask the busy mums how old their babies were, and the babies might now be 7, 8, 10. And I understand as a mum, your baby's always your baby, even if they're 20, 30. But from a brain health and actual like focus and memory point of view, I was like, no, you're actually out of the hormonal stage where your brain is being impacted by having a baby. You are now actually just so used of functioning, forgetting things, and with brain fog and like just feeling like your head's really heavy. And like clients will literally often like do stuff like hold their heads and talk about how heavy and full it feels, how overwhelmed they feel, how anything like they need a coffee to get a sharper brain. So what we do as humans, and this is why it kind of makes it hard to track our brain health, we'll often find ways to make it better. So when I talk to clients about having coffee, and the only reason I remove coffee for a few days of my programs is I want to check what's happening with their brain health.
Uh-huh.
And so when clients go, I feel foggy, I forget things, I don't feel as focused, I don't feel as sharp. Those are the words that they're using without their coffee. What they're actually telling me is their brain is already inflamed and it's already on a trajectory that we need to change, because otherwise they're prime candidates for dementia. So anytime you're using stimulants, so that might be also cacao, so anytime you're using something diet to get a better outcome with your brain, while I'm all about enhancing things and using your diet and all of those things by all means, it's telling me that your actual, like if your brain health should be up here, you're probably already down here, and
Like
you're
your
slowly going
baseline
to
is
keep.
lower. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing, Alex, unfortunately, is as a society, a lot of us have got a lot of brain fog, and I'll tell you why in 1 second. So our baseline in our conversations, everyone's normalizing it, everyone's excusing it, everyone's talking about being the busy mom, the parent, so many things.
It's almost given a badge of honor. Hey, it's like, oh, it's I'm busy, and it's seen as a good thing or like a
Yeah,
heroic thing.
yeah. And so we've normalized it, and the symptoms have become so normal. It's like you need, and so and like I know the programs you do, Alex, is the same thing. It's like whenever you step out of your normal day-to-day life, and I encourage like whoever they're working with, Alex, me, somebody else overseas, whatever it is, it's really important to actually do like a 7-day challenge, 5 days, whatever, 10 days, whatever you pick. Because if you've got a before and after, like in terms of your body and your experience, those things are really useful. Like I always encourage clients to do it at least once a year, because regardless of blood tests, regardless of working with a practitioner, regardless of what people are telling you, when you experience a before and after from removing yourself from like your coffee or your sugar or your gluten or whatever the thing is, and you notice a difference, that's telling you a lot of where your brain health trajectory is going 20, 30, 40 years from today.
Yeah, right. It's that interoceptive awareness, hey, that only we have, but we have to create the space to develop it. Yeah, I see.
Yeah. And so my best advice to people, yes, I love blood work. And Alex, you know how much I love blood work, and I love data, and I love teaching tools, and I love all the things. But I'm like, actually, just taking 3 days, whatever you can do. A day is probably not enough in terms of brain health, but a few days out of your normal and changing your diet and changing your coffee habits or your black tea habits, increasing your water, like just doing the things that we suggest like throughout this interview, and seeing if you see a change in your body. Because if you see a change for the better, awesome, for starters, like you're feeling better. But it's also an awareness, it's a wellness check of what is happening to your brain and how it is slowly deteriorating without you even really realizing it because you've normalized it.
Yeah. Two things I want to double click on there. The first is the see if you're feeling better when you cut something out piece. Because often when I don't drink coffee, I haven't drank coffee for years, but when I speak to people who try and wean themselves off it or go cold turkey, often their response to me is, I feel horrendous. Like the first few days are, I feel awful. So Shelley, would that suggest that going off coffee has been a bad thing for them? Or is there what I think is more so going to be the answer, is there a period in which things need to find homeostasis and they kind of have to push through that awful few days in order to then start to get some proper feedback from their body?
Well, the reason they're feeling awful, because some people can come on and off coffee. You know, they could have it for a month and then just go cold turkey.
That's my husband. He can just come and go as he pleases and he's fine.
Yeah, so that's normally a liver sign. There's always another sign. So people that where their liver's working better can process with and without coffee. Anyone that gets symptoms, headaches is liver related, but also letting you know that your brain, there's inflammation in your brain. And then people that notice those cognitive symptoms, like they feel like so foggy or less focused and they don't feel so sharp and they can't get their brain to get going. Like when they talk about, and we've both heard people talk about this, they need coffee to get their brain going and it focuses them and it makes them more sharp. And then as they're coming off it, they feel foggy and they feel like they can't work and scattered and non-motivated and just all of these symptoms around their brains. That is telling them that their brain is very inflamed. So yes, homeostasis will happen. And yes, you can get rid of those symptoms. And yes, 2 or 3 weeks later, if you stayed off coffee, it would pass. However, and like I know this all the time with my clients, it's almost like we're scared of symptoms in society. But I love symptoms because those days where you're feeling like hell on earth, well, I don't want clients to feel awful. It's also telling you a lot about your brain and what's happening with your brain. And coffee is just one thing. Like if we, when I start talking about, well, but I feel fine on coffee and I don't need coffee. And I'm like, that's just one thing that society uses. It's one tool we use to have good brain focus and brain function. There can be a whole heap of other things, like, for example, gluten, sugar. Other people are using other like sources in our diets to improve our brain health temporarily. So it's not just coffee, but when you're feeling crappy coming off the sugar or coming off the gluten or coming off the coffee or the black tea, that is actually telling you your brain is inflamed and we need to do something, or I would really suggest you do something to look after it and reverse the damage to it.
Yeah, right. So that's really powerful feedback. Amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. And the other thing that I want to double click on from that last share from you is this piece around, new mums and that kind of brain fog and haze that comes in those early years, but then us continuing to use that excuse 7, 8 years, 10 years down the track. So Shelley, is there a particular stage postpartum when hormonally things should balance out and that brain fog as a result of hormones should kind of disappear? I'm just thinking, like, is there a stage when we can go, okay, now I can see that it's actually something other than the fact that my postpartum hormones are all over the show?
So, very simple question, but very complicated at the same time. But an easy answer, as you were asking me that, I was like, oh my gosh. An easy answer is when your baby is from 2 years, that would be a really good cutoff. Hormonally, whether our hormones should be balanced earlier or not. Yes, ideally. However, I also give a lot of grace to mums in terms of what we're going through, transitions, and we're not always I know I wasn't, even as a health practitioner, I'm not prioritizing my own health to get my hormones balanced as fast as possible. So that's why I'm like, some women, depending, like, and we're just all different. Some women will see their brain and their hormones like back into shape, and this is the thing, like, why it's hard for women when we start comparing each other, because ourselves to other women's journeys. Some women's hormones will balance much quicker, and their brain clarity will come back much quicker. But I kind of like to give, like, if you've still got brain fog when the child's 2, it's not detrimental to your own health yet. Like, you haven't done damage, you haven't done, like, so there's the grace for you, like, you're not causing stress on your own body. And that's why I kind of give the greater time period. But like by 5 years, or like by the time the child's 5, or when I see clients when the child was 8 or 10, I was like, blessed, like, no, we need to work on this like ASAP.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
this is no longer okay, because it is detrimental to the woman, like their health, like the client's health, the woman's health. And so that's why I take a more proactive approach. But those first, like 1 to 2, like, definitely I always give clients until that 2-year mark before I'm really like, hey, we really need to sort this out and be proactive and really get it all, like, the simple habits in place and doing it. And that's just because mumming's hard.
Yeah.
And as a new mum, all the added pressure, I'm like, I know in an ideal world we'd all look after ourselves, but we don't. We prioritize baby, and we're sleep deprived and all the things. So I give it more, just because I don't want to put any more pressure on new mums.
Yeah, some more expectation. Yeah. It's funny,
but
like I had
Oh, you go.
I had 3 kids in 3.5 years, so I essentially had a very long time of either being pregnant or breastfeeding, or within that postpartum stage. And so it's really hard for me to look back and see any sort of shifts in that period for me in terms of my clarity of mind and things. But certainly I remember a real key milestone when Wilfred, my third, turned, I think he was about 1.5 actually, and I breastfed him till he was 13 months. He decided he was done after that, much to my dismay. But we got to about 18 months, and I remember feeling a real shift, and suddenly I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like, quote unquote, me again. Like, I've got more clarity, I've got more regulated energy, and everything just felt easier. He still wasn't sleeping right through the night at that point. We were certainly getting more sleep. But I think obviously at that point things had kind of regulated a little bit. But for me, the other key piece was when I started to become really aware of the importance of the nervous system, and that regulation and discharging of cortisol and stress. And it was when I became really mindful of those things that everything else kind of just naturally fell into place.
You are spot on, Alex. Like, the nervous system. And so from my point of view, when I think of like nervous system, getting parasympathetic and doing the tools, on the flip side, I go straight to, well, somebody that's sympathetic dominant, so in the stress response, is high cortisol. And I've been in this place, so I'm not talking to, like, I'm not judging, I'm not like, I'm preaching, to myself as well. So when we're pumping out a lot of cortisol, that's creating a lot of inflammation, particularly in our brains. But it's also when we're pumping out a lot of cortisol, and you're probably about to describe this way better than me, Alex, with a great analogy from your yoga. Like, we're constricted, which means our brain is very constricted. So when we're in a stress state, an inflamed state, pumping out lots of cortisol, we go into that constricted state, including our brains, right? So just like in my banking days, I permanently lived with my shoulders up like this, tapping away at the computer. So for me, I know that when my shoulders are raised, I now think, oh my gosh, my brain's constricted too. I'm not getting the blood flow there. So when you're not getting blood flow to your brain, that is going to stop. That's going to stop your focus and your memory, and it's going to start to impact how it can be used. And also then it's going to have consequences because it's not like opening up.
Okay, so nice. I feel like we've organically moved in now to tools and easy solutions that we can use to support our brain health. So now I want to like hone in on that when it comes to nutrition, one of both of our favorite topics. So Shelley, what are some of your biggest non-negotiables for supporting our brain health when it comes to nutrition? And then on the flip side to that, what do you see people consistently getting wrong in this space?
So a couple of things is water. And what we'll notice, and I know this from like with my grandparents, when I'd ask my granddad like if he drank water, he'd be like, I drink black tea. Right?
My
Like, so
exact same thing.
you go into rest homes and like they're not drinking water, right? Like, and they don't have access. And that's a huge generalization. I shouldn't say that, but on the whole, a lot of elderly people and a lot of elderly people in hospitals, and I'm not banging out hospitals or rest homes or anything like that, but their access to water becomes limited. And the more, like, literally it's like if you think of like a date or a prune that's shriveled up, the same thing happens to our brain without something as simple as water. And it can seem so simple, but once again, you'll see this with patterns of people. And it's funny that it's the mums complaining about mum brain and brain fog. Most mums are not drinking enough water. Like that habit, they might have been drinking it like in their working days and when they're in the office and with the habits. And then as soon as they're at home in those first year or first few months, breastfeeding especially, because you need more water. And even if you're not breastfeeding, you still need a lot of water. The water drops off. And so you will literally create brain fog and brain inflammation and stress. Like your brain needs a lot of water, and we need the water to get in between everything, to loosen it all up and to move and to detoxify. So while we need it because we need to be hydrated, and the brain definitely needs to be hydrated, we also need water to move toxins out of our bodies. So when we are not prioritizing our water, and I'm not judging anyone because I know it's really hard, it's a habit that's very hard for every single client, then we are A, trapping the toxins in, and B, we're literally like starving our brain. It's shriveling up like a dry, and I say dried prune or date, because we all know what that looks like.
It's such a good visual.
Right, and it doesn't look very appealing. And so it's literally that simple. Like some of the tools for great brain health are that simple. And I say that because in a decade, I've only seen one person getting perfectly hydrated when they first came to see me.
Wow.
Right? And so we've got smart, as you do too, Alex, we've got smart, intelligent people. And I almost feel like we've had it drummed into our heads so much to drink water, we just don't do it, right? Because it's like everyone knows to drink more water. Like, you know, I have clients literally eye roll me in the session, and I'm like, eye roll me as much as you like, because you still are drinking the right amount of water. So you can eye roll me, but you need to heal this as much as everyone else. You know, and so I think that water, something so simple and something that totally gets forgotten about as we age, like it really falls off the radar. Is such a key, simple one.
Yeah.
And then the other thing with water is also electrolytes. I'm not a big fan, and I have to be perfectly honest. I'm not a big fan. I'm not saying electrolytes and then telling you to go buy your own electrolytes. I'm really not. I like people to be able to, I'm very much like invest in your health when you need to. And when you don't need to buy things, don't buy things. Because there's so many different things that we genuinely, you know, whether it's saunaing, which I'll come to in a second, you know, there's so many different things we actually need to pay for. So anytime we don't need to pay for something, I'm like, just don't. Like, you obviously can, but you don't. So I'm not saying electrolytes and now you need to go out and buy a fancy, if buying fancy products makes you feel really happy, go buy the fancy product. But electrolytes is literally just adding a good quality salt to your water.
Amazing.
So it gets to be that easy and that accessible, because, you know, I don't want it to be another to-do thing. Now I've got to get online and find another, right? But
and half the time the store-bought electrolytes have so many extra additives and sugars and thing anyway, right? With the salt, Shelley, a good quality salt, how do we know it's a good quality? Are there particular types or brands or?
So basically, the way to answer that one, sometimes it's the negative way. The way you know it's not a good quality salt is the good old, for New Zealand listeners, you'll all recognize this because we've seen it like our whole lives. It's the blue and white table salt. So, and then to make it really general for everyone, salt is a mineral, which means it should expand in the summer and it should change size and get smaller in the winter. Now, why that's not useful is when they invented the salt shaker, you can't have salt expanding and now not working in the salt shaker. So this is worldwide. This isn't just New Zealand. This example is worldwide. And you can't have it too small in the winter because now you're like, your food's too salty and the salt shaker is a faulty product. So when they invented the salt shaker, they also started putting chemicals through our salt, which is the table salt in New Zealand. That's a classic example, but every country has the equivalent of New Zealand's blue and white table salt. So what you want is any mineral. So whether it's Himalayan, like any of those, there's Himalayan salt, there's what's another common
Celtic.
one?
I love Celtic salt.
Celtic's a good one, kelp salt, like anything. And if you ever pour, like I always get clients to pour it into their hand or look on a spoon, and you look at that salt, it's all different sizes and shapes.
Yeah, nice.
That's the clue that it's really good quality mineral salt. And then my other top tip, because I am all about like doing less but getting more benefits, salt is a mineral. So have your favorite salt, because I do too, everyone does. But whenever you can, whenever you're at a different store or you're in a different country or city, buy different salts from different places in the world, because then you're getting different minerals. So, if the salt, right? So if the salt comes from somewhere close to a volcano, like I had a friend, this is how well she knows me, and she bought me, it sounds like the silliest salt back from Hawaii that was right at the bottom of the volcano.
Oh, and wow.
Right? Yeah. Like, it sounds so silly, but I was so grateful because I was like, that's a whole bunch of new minerals.
New minerals. That's amazing. Oh my gosh, I love that. Salt souvenirs. How good.
It sounds so silly, but like, it's like, it becomes, and this is how natural, like, health gets to be fun, and you can stack the health benefits, so you don't have to buy more multi-minerals or buy more products per se. You can just be intentional with what you are buying. Yeah, and so for me, that intentionality is, I always have my favorite salt brand, I will admit to that, but I do always rotate another one in my cupboard at the same time that I'm putting into my water.
Nice. I love that. So good and so easy. Any other nutritional things, Shelley, food-wise?
Alex, there's so many. I realized that too. So the other thing is, and this is a generational thing as well, I feel like the younger generation is more on board with this than the older generation that's been very brainwashed. So our brain is mainly fat. Like, it's made up of fat, which is good and bad. Fat in our bodies, whether it's like, I just always pick under our arms because we can always picture like, know that one. See, everyone gets it. So we hold toxins in our fat cells. So whether it's the wings under our arms or in our brain, we will hold toxins there. So what that means, why I'm telling you that, there's twofold. But the first thing is, our brain is majority made up of fat, which means we actually need to eat dietary sources of fat every single day. Now, once again, people will start talking about like omega-3 supplements and all the rest. And yes, you can do that, and there's benefits to it, absolutely. However, I'm always a diet first person. What we can do with our diet, I'm always going to push that, because I know there's just some things we can't do, or it just doesn't work for our life. So if, thinking about fats at each of your meals is too hard, by all means, do an omega supplement. By all means, I'm not anti that, but I'm always going to push the diet first. I know it's not always achievable for people, but for me, with my clients, it's always, you need a fat at every single meal. And sometimes that can literally just be as easy as, some of my male clients will be like, well, I'm just going to have a teaspoon of olive oil then, like separate. Like, they'll eat whatever they want for their lunch, and then they're like, oh,
and then the chaser.
For them, that's easy. Or for my clients that like soups in the winter, I'm like, just put a little, like, you can't even taste avocado oil in your soup. Like, avocado oil is like so bland. It does nothing. So I'm like, put it, like, just add it to your soup. It gets to be that easy. Or in your salads in the evenings, it can be roasted pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds, which adds so much flavor. And then in your smoothie, it might be like a little bit of MCT oil, or it might be avocado oil or coconut milk, or whatever it is. But it's really thinking about, I always get clients to break it down. And I'm big into like using oils. You can obviously, like, I'll sometimes tell clients to do avocado oil because it stops the excuse of avocados not being in season. Avocados being expensive. So I'm always like, have your cupboard stocked, because as busy mums, if it's not there, it's too hard. And
Yeah.
then you'll always add fresh things. Like I'm always like, if I see avocados, I'm like, oh, yummy. Like I don't need to be told to add that to my trolley. I'm adding that. So I'm always like, have the bases in your cupboard. Like that is the best trick that I tell everyone. And I do things like things that aren't going to go off, like your oils or your seeds, because they're easy, they're not expensive on the budget because it's not fresh food, so you're
Yeah,
not
nice.
dictated. So I'm always like, what are the cheap, and like sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds, I always tell clients, they're like the cheapest of the cheapest.
Yeah.
But they fill you up because they're the fats, and they get your fats in for your brain health as well.
Yeah, love.
So
can I go back to the oils for a second, Shelley? Because I agree. I love avocado oil, and as far as good quality oils go, it's quite good value generally. Hey,
that's what I
but I
think.
want to ask the controversial question around seed oils, because obviously there's quite the conversation out there around some seed oils being bad for our health, particularly our brain health. But then, yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Anyway.
Well, it's so funny, once again, being in nutrition, like there's always things that crop up. So when I was trained 10 years ago, there was not even a discussion about any seed oils. Like it was like seed oils are off the table. They're all death. They're all bad. They're all terrible.
Roll
Rancid. Like all the things, right? Like they are damaging your prostaglandins, which are your anti-inflammatory hormones. They're terrible for your brain health. They're terrible for your hormones. Like there was just not even a discussion. And we had a lot of the paleo doctors, like, she's coming to the media now, so I'll use her name anyway. Dr. Sarah Ballantyne, she was very anti and publishing it, and we were getting a lot of research that it was terrible. So it wasn't even up for discussion. Like I remember being a new graduate or new practitioner, and it was just like, it was on the table. Like I would literally just tell clients this was how it was, and they were like, great. Then obviously, I think it was maybe 18 months ago, 2 years ago, Sarah Ballantyne, I will say her name because she was kind of one of the lead instigators in changing this. She came out and was like, actually, I apologize for my research. I don't believe in this anymore. I'm changing all my books. I'm changing all my recipes, and seed oils are now okay.
Uh-huh.
So we've seen, and before that, like before I trained probably 20 years ago, so we'll always see stuff change in the health world. We're always going to see. And I actually think, like, while some practitioners get very stuck in like facts, I think it's useful and it's great to reevaluate and have new discussions for younger generations, younger practitioners, younger people coming through, so that we actually are forced to have a conversation.
Yeah, I love that.
Because even how we started the interview, which was 10 years ago, nobody was talking about reversing brain health. Like I was like woo-woo for even mentioning it, and it was weird and wacky. But because of being able to challenge things and look into things and really push forward, I think it's really useful to reevaluate things and go, hang on, is there new evidence? Is there new information? Are we learning new tools, new studies, new research, like all those things to say, actually, what we've been doing was great back then, but now there's new evidence and new research to say things differently.
Yeah, nice. That open-mindedness and that humility with it, to be wrong and to change and, keep up with the times.
What I would say, Alex, and this is where, like, so a lot of clients, and you'll get this too, come to me and they want brands, they want recommendations, they want the right and the wrong, right? Like they want what am I allowed to do and what I'm not allowed to do. And so clients have always struggled with this with me, because I'm like, I'm not going to give you that. Like there is no right list and wrong list, and there are no perfect brands anywhere. Like, a great brand might be a great brand for 6 months and then it gets sold, or they create a new product and now they're adding a new ingredient that I don't agree with. So rather than teaching that, much to clients of frustration, because we all want the quick cheat sheet, I will always teach what you're actually looking for, big picture. So when it comes to seed oils, what's very interesting, and you could tell me one, maybe one differently, Alex, but often seed oils are in plastic containers. On the whole, I'm just about to give you the big picture. Now, plastic containers for any oil, whether it's your perfect avocado oil or your olive oil or a seed oil, is never good. Fat leaches that plastic, so the oil leaches the plastic into it, and now it's already terrible for you. right? So once again, I say to clients, when you're in the supermarket and you see the plastic containers and seed oils predominantly because they're cheaper, cheaper oils often means they're not in premium glass packaging. So there's one problem. So I'm like, regardless, the principle here, regardless of the debate around seed oils and, look at these common trends around the world. So you don't want oils in plastic. You also don't want, once again, seed oils are notorious for this. And so this is why the seed oil debate is actually more intricate than a lot of the research is coming out, right? The other thing you don't want is you don't want light on your oil because it turns it rancid. So once again, the seed oils often, if we take a trip down Pack and Save or Countdown or Coles if you're in Australia, whatever it is, you'll find them right under the bright lights, plastic clear bottles. And so it doesn't matter if you're paying $6 or $12 or $20 for the seed oil, it's rancid and it's gone off and it's
by the time you bought it. Oh, yeah.
And so, Alex, for me, I'm like, well, that's actually inflaming you, regardless of whether it's a seed oil or your expensive olive oil and your avocado oil, those things, or your castor oil, whatever it is, those things are more important than the oil type. Right?
Yeah,
and so
amazing.
Then you've got that. And so then you always want your oils to be in dark glass bottles. So your dark greens, your dark blacks. That's why you'll often see the premium olive oil, especially in New Zealand with all our olive groves. The premium olive oil is always in black glass.
Yeah. And it's the same with, there's a beautiful brand actually from just out of Christchurch of sunflower oil and rapeseed oil actually, and they're both cold pressed. It's called the Good Oil, and it comes in beautiful, dark glass containers. And I find it really good quality oil and obviously high heat point, so fine to cook with and all the things.
See, so I think and so then what I would say is affordability. I would prefer if somebody, and it's really hard when you're talking general, like as we both know, but if somebody's budget couldn't get them to afford the olive oil or the avocado oil that's in the glass in the dark, and so it was either that choice or the olive oil in a plastic light plastic bottle, I'm always going to tell them to do the seed oil that's in the dark glass.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
So, and then like you say, it's all why seed oils also have bad reputation is it comes down to the processing. So I'll just give this one tip because it's really useful like I say, I always go big picture rather than rights and wrongs.
Yeah, I love.
So, and please hear me, I'm never doing this myself personally in my own kitchen. But if you take olives or even avocados and you grind them down long enough, it turns into oil without needing to add anything else to it. Right? Like, and it's the same with your nut milks. You just add like an almond and you add milk. So what I always say to clients, once again, they want the good and the bad brains, but I'm like, this becomes universal when you learn what you're looking for. So if you can get like pumpkin seeds, you can turn that, technically they're a seed oil, but you can turn that into oil yourself at home with no additives. So if you can take the raw ingredient, I say, I'm not expecting you to do it yourself in your kitchen, but if you can take that and create it, you know that it's not going to cause inflammation in your body.
It's a good general understanding to have, hey, it's like, how can we get something that's as close to its original form as possible?
Alex, I just looked at the time. I was so passionate about all of this. I haven't even answered all your questions.
No, honestly, it's fine. I've thought the same thing, but I'm really happy. I think the listeners are going to really enjoy that we're diving in detail and providing such a good, vast range of tools. I think we're good. We can always do part 2 as well, hopefully, at some point.
Can I add one more for brain health, though? Like lifestyle.
Yes, please.
I know I haven't gone into the negative, like what not to eat for your brain. Saunas. Like from when we were talking about toxicity and the brain holding onto the toxins because of the fat, lifestyle-wise, if you're going to pay for one thing, I would always promote whether you buy your own sauna or pay for or use the sauna at the gym. And once again, I don't even get into the intricacies of which sauna is better. Is it near infrared, traditional? Like at the end of the day, I just say, if you go to the gym, just use the gym sauna because that is better than nothing. If you can use it as your special like treat each week and you're going to pay $20 or $30 to have the Lush sauna, fantastic. But one lifestyle tool that is like game changing, if you did nothing else, the one thing that I really recommend is saunaing for your brain health.
Oh, this makes me so happy. We have one at home and I love it just because it's such a beautiful way to wind down. And so knowing, like, to hear from somebody like you with your expertise that it is as good as it's said to be is really encouraging.
Like, truly, if that was the only tool you could afford, time-wise, money-wise, all the things, and I'm not even saying you have to go out and buy your own, but if you can get yourself to one in the gym, like anywhere, and like I say, yes, of course, I can always tell you the best, but what I always say to clients is I'm like, the best is you actually doing it regularly. That is way better than the best in terms of the brand, the type, the blah, blah, blah. I'm like, just get yourself in because it is incredible for helping your body get the toxins out, which means your brain is bringing down its toxic load, which is preventative for dementia and Alzheimer's. Like, if that was the only thing you did for your brain health, phenomenal.
Yeah, beautiful. And when you say regularly, Shelley, how regularly is regular?
Well, if you're not doing it at all, like once a month, once a week is fantastic.
Okay.
So never, like, and I'm never one to like load people up in terms of never like take away from the fact of just doing one thing. Like once a month, fantastic, because that's still 12 times a year and it's still really helping. Once a week, amazing. Ideally 3 to 4 times a week is like optimal. And I will just say on that though, the older you are, or the more like, as in terms of, you know, what I said about age, or the more like it's in your family or you're worried about it, that's when you'd want to prioritize this and do it more.
Okay, beautiful. And then I'm aware of time, so I will make this my last question before we wrap up. But I feel like we can't talk about saunas without then talking about cold therapy. I feel like they've kind of come together. So what are your thoughts around cold plunging and how that works for brain health or not?
So I'm quite opinionated on this, Alex, but I'll keep it short. For males, cold plunges, phenomenal. There is no bad impact to their hormones, their health. It's only good. It's good for their nervous system. It's good for resilience. It's actually like not great for detoxification. Like there is no, but there's other amazing benefits. For women, it's totally different for their if they've got thyroid conditions, hormonal issues where their body's already stressed, the hormones are already out of balance, their cortisol's high. Like, so for women, we're much more complex, unfortunately. And for some women, it can be amazing. But for a lot of women, it's actually just another source of stress that's actually putting their cortisol levels up and it's really impacting their thyroid health. Men aren't so susceptible with their thyroid health. Like when I do a lot of lab testing, men's thyroids are 9 times out of 10 almost phenomenal. When I look at my women clients, they've always got thyroid issues, even if they don't think they've got thyroid issues. So I think there's benefits to cold therapy. Like for my clients, I often say them from a nervous system point of view, 10 to 20 seconds with cold water at the back of your neck for your vagus nerve, super beautiful, super beneficial, great from a nervous system point of view. And by all means, if you're out with your girlfriends and it's all about the fun of it and the joy of it and it brings you a lot of joy, but I wouldn't put a lot of pressure on yourself for a woman if you don't have time, you're time poor, you're all the things poor. I'm like, do not prioritize the cold plunge. Nice. But, Alex, there's always a but. If it means you'll go back in the sauna for longer, then by all means have a quick cold plunge.
I love. So good. I'm equally as happy to hear that though, because cold plunge and me are just not very good friends. I love a swim in the ocean, but something about like forcing yourself to jump into a cold pool of water, it's just
So also, one note on that quickly, because I know we're trying to wrap it up. If you go back to seasons and if we go back to nature, women will, by all means, somewhere in the world, we will get into the sea, we will get into the lake, we will do those things. Maybe it's on summer holiday with our children for 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But it's very rare that you're seeing a woman do that for 10 years, 20 years, day in and day out, all the time.
So true. Yeah. I love. Oh my gosh, Shelley, I could literally talk to you all day. I'm so honored to have you on here, and I know that the listeners will just be taking so much away from this. And no doubt lots of people are intrigued as to how they can learn more from you and connect with you. So could you share, before we wrap up, Shelley, a little bit about your work and how people can find you and ways to work with you?
So one of my favorite things, and Alex will know this, I really do like Instagram because I love sharing information.
Oh,
I
you
find
share
it
so much
easy.
goodness on there too. If I could only have 5 people on Instagram that I followed, you would be one of them for sure.
I'm so honest. So I'm very intentional with what I share because I always wanted to actually be adding value and educational and empowering you. So you won't come to my Instagram and kind of get, like be made to feel bad or feel like it's more hard work. Like I think, that of Alex, where it's not, it's useful tips that we're going to be applying daily or reminders. So that's really my intention behind Instagram, where I like genuinely want to help more people and help health become accessible for more people. And I love doing that in terms of, you're working with Alex, you're working with your practitioners. And then another way I really do love helping people is like my 10-day programs, while you still work with your own individual practitioners and get all that support and all of that. Because I just love teaching you so many tools, and you have I'm like, you're here for the good time, not the long time. And I mean that in love, because I just love people, because as a society, we've been told that health takes so long to fix and it's hard work. And so I just love giving you an actual transformational experience that gets rid of all of those blocks and all of those mindsets where you're like, oh, I actually did see a lot of change in 10 days.
Amazing.
And then I'm like, and go back to your practitioner like Alex to get that support. But it really propels people.
Yeah, I love that. Remove those blocks, get those wheels in motion, get some wins on the board. So good.
Yeah. So those are the 2 best ways, Alex.
Amazing. And I'll make sure I link your Instagram and your website and all the things in the show notes. And hopefully we can have a part 2 at some point, because this has just been amazing. But to everyone tuning in, thank you so much. As always, if you have any questions, comments, and feedback, feel free to get in touch via the comments section of wherever you listen to your podcast. And until next time, sending so much love. Thank you so much for joining me, Alex Bella, on Real World Wellness, the podcast that guides and inspires you to weave sustainable and feel-good wellness into your busy schedule. If you've loved it, you could say thanks with a star rating and a review, and of course, join me in the community over on Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Find me at alex.bella wherever you're hanging out, and I'd love to connect with you there. Until next time, be well.